Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in. We're so excited to see you, to be connected on this virtual platform. Today, we have our virtual career fair, and especially for government agencies. So this is Prisma Nis, and we have an amazing session for you. Please buckle up for the next hour and a half because this is going to be amazing. So first, let's start off by just some acknowledgement and maybe introduction on why we're here, what is NIST, and what are some things we can expect today. So first, I'd like to thank Dr. Rosenberger, Glenn Johnson, Randy, and Megan Glenn from NIST for making this happen. For each of these sessions, there's a lot of work that goes into behind everything, and they're the ones that make it happen. So thank you guys. And also to the amazing panelists for showing up today, to take time out of your day for helping us today. So first of all, right, like what is NIST? Why are we here? So to start off, NIST is a national institute that delivers high impact research in science and in public policy by leveraging the rich expertise of its staff with that of based affiliate organizations in academia, industry, and government. As we see on the graph on the right-hand side, it's a combination of the affiliates from academia, industry, and government. Of course, today we have our amazing affiliates from government today. And as its name indicates, NIST work on issues where information and quantitative analysis are keys to solutions and decisions. So with that said, right, like what can we expect today? Today, we have our amazing affiliates from 3 government organizations, totally 4 speakers, talking about 5 different set of questions with gear towards job opportunities, skill sets, career path, and hiring opportunities, as well as any advice they would give from their agencies. So what you can expect are things specifically tailored to their agencies. And if you're interested in taking positions within the governments, I recommend just taking notes and interact today. So next, also a little bit more on this. If you're interested in opportunities like this, I really encourage you to just go on NIST.org because there's other opportunities. For example, we have academia, academic career fair, virtual career fair in fall 2022, as well as for the industry, right? The previous slide says it's a combination of the industry affiliates, academic affiliates, and government affiliates. So we also have other fronts, and you can get more information from NIST.org. So let's jump into our session today. I'd love to introduce first quickly the schedule for today and how best to interact. Because it's a webinar, it might be a little bit different than normal Zoom meetings, but we'll make sure we get all your questions answered and interact as efficiently as possible. Today, we have our 4 speakers and each session is about 15-minute long. For time purposes and for just the efficiency of the entire schedule, we'll leave the Q&A at the end, about 20 to 25 minutes of Q&A. If you have specific questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A features. As you see on the bottom, there's a Q&A features. Just to test out so everyone knows where it is, if you see the Q&A features, can you just type in the Q&A of where you are currently at? I know we're from a lot of different locations. Personally, I am currently in LA, and a lot of people are from different locations. So just if you can see the Q&A, can you please type in like where you are zooming in from? Brian says Riverside, awesome. Niranja said Michigan. Keshin said NYC, wow, New York. Anna says Austin, Ohio. We have Philly, we have Virginia, Oregon. That's amazing. It's truly amazing how this platform allows us to connect from different places around the country. But we have the same goal of using statistics for good, right? New York, Dallas, that's amazing. Thank you guys so much. Yes, during the Q&A, please use that feature to ask questions and we'll be able to answer them. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Danny, and I'm currently a Master of Applied Statistics student here at UCLA. So lastly, after the webinar too, right, it doesn't just end here. After the webinar, you'll see a email to your email inbox about how your experience has been. It's crucial for us to know how you interact and how you enjoy your experiences, but also It have more information for the slides and recording if you want to access. So with that said, do we have any questions? I hope everything is clear. Okay. If everything's clear, let us jump into our first speaker of the day. I will quickly introduce the speakers, and the speakers will give their talk. So first, we have Dr. Xiaoxing Fan from BTS. Dr. Xiaoxing Fan is the Director of Office of Data Development and Standards in the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. She leads the BTS data development program, including data collection from surveys and alternative sources to support transportation decision making. She also guides BTS effort in statistical standards, data quality, and confidentiality protection. Prior to joining BTS in 2019, she has professional experience with multiple federal and private organizations, including Federal Communications Commission, U.S. Census Bureau, Energy Information Administration, and RAND Corporation, which we'll see these organizations later on today as well. Dr. Fan has a PhD in National Resources and Environmental Sciences and an MS in Statistics from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So thank you so much, Dr. Xiaoxing Fan. We will give the floor to you. So let me just stop sharing. Yes, please.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Danny. Let me try to share my screen. Okay, and hope it works. Try one more time. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the invitation from NIST. It is really my pleasure to be here talking to everyone about Bureau of Transportation Statistics. My name is Xiaoxing Fan. I'm the Office Director of Data Development Standards at BTS. So in the next 15 minutes, and I guess 10 minutes or so, I will quickly introduce to you who BTS is, what do we do, what kind of career path that we have here at BTS, and what is it like working at BTS, what kind of skills we're looking for, and what are our current opportunities. First, I want to quickly tell everybody who is not familiar with the Federal Statistical Agency who BTS is. We are one of the 13 principal federal statistical agencies. The principal federal statistical agencies are guided by the OMB Office of Management and Budget, and our goal is to produce objective and credible statistics for the nation. And as a statistical agency, for the Department of Transportation, we collect information for the transportation statistics. Our agency was established in 1992, and this year we just celebrate our 30th anniversary. We are the smallest statistical agency among the 13. There are only 75 full-time employees in this agency. You can see the picture on the right-hand side. That is the picture of our headquarters in Navy Yard. You probably have heard of another BTS, which is more lively. They dance and they sing. We want to consider ourselves to be the original BTS since we are already 30 years old. Here I'm showing our first album that was published in 1993. We don't have any songs in this album. That's only transportation data. So that was one of the CD that we put out back in 1993. There's no songs, but that's our first album. So I will just use a couple of minutes to quickly give you a sampler of the programs. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. Wait a second. Okay, don't touch. All right. I will just use a couple minutes. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but let's. All right. Okay, don't move. All right, so let me just quickly go through this one slide. So I will give you a couple sampler of the current programs that we have in BTS. Since the pandemic, you probably have heard about the I find this is a little bit distracting. If you don't mind, let me just back out a little bit and maybe reshare my screen.
Yeah, take your time. Whatever works. I think the first session there might be like it's a little bit harder, but take your time.
All right. Okay. So maybe let me just do it this way. All right. I would much prefer to show you the full screen. Can you see the slides okay?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. All right. So I will give you a couple samplers of the current BTS program. Since the pandemic started, you probably have heard about the disruption of the supply chain. And the industry came to the White House, came to the Congress, and also Department of Transportation to ask for some solutions. And 3 new data programs BTS is currently developing. The first one, we call it FLOW, which is a White House initiative. We gather all the players within the supply chain to come to the table, and we try to develop a matrix that we can use to measure the performance of the current supply chain disruption. We are also mandated to collect information on the chassis and marine container street dwell time and chassis out of service statistics in order to produce information that's needed for the country. And we also work with the Maritime Commission to develop a weekly data report on the available of the container. The next example is vehicle inventory and use survey. VIUS, this data set contains information on the characteristics and the use of the nation's truck population. The last VIUS was conducted in 2002, and Census Bureau at that time was the agency who conducted the survey. The survey was stopped in 2002 due to the funding issue, but since then, the decision makers and the analysts are still using the 2002 data. In 2021, BTS with our partners, Census Bureau, Federal Highway Administration, and Department of Energy, we bring back VIUS, and we are very proud to announce that the result of VIUS will be out next year around fall, and we are also planning for an electric vehicle version of VIUS, and that will also be coming out next year. BTS is mandated to produce National Transportation Analysis database. So here I'm just showing you some example that we have maps of the location and the condition of all the bridges in the country. And we also have maps of the ferry routes in the whole country, also the EV charging station location as well. As part of the DOT Equity Action Plan, BTS is developing models and data collection if we find data gaps to measure transportation cost burden at the neighborhood level. And this information will be used for the decision makers to determine if access to the transportation are equitable. COVID has changed many different things. It also has changed how we collect the information. The traditional data collection really is not timely enough for us to measure something that's fast changing. For example, the changes in the travel behavior. So we have been working with University of Maryland to develop an experimental data product using the location-based data, for example, the cell phone signals. And with this type of information, is more unstructured. So there are some challenges and there are data issues that we have to sort out, but we produce the data that's much faster and more timely, and we are able to measure the change of the travel behavior over time, especially during the COVID and throughout the recovery. And I also want to point out one fun fact that BTS is not just one of the 13 federal principal statistical agency. We are also home to one of the 5 national libraries, National Transportation Library. We have a digital collection of all the transportation literature and the data sets, and our digital collection is called ROSA-P. So if you're interested in the transportation subjects, I would encourage everyone to take a look at ROSA-P. All right, so next, let me quickly talk about how does it look like working in BTS and what kind of people are in BTS. So our federal positions are from GS9 all the way up to the SES, which is the highest rank in the career path. So most of our positions are non-supervisory, that GS9 to GS14, they are all non-supervisory, and then the managements will go up to GS15 and to the SES level. But if you are a student or if you just graduate, you would still like to get some experience, we also offer fellowship and internship. And we also offer fellowship to accomplished scientists as well. If you are a professor who is looking for sabbatical opportunities, that we also offer the fellowship as well. We are a very small agency, and I just gave you a very few example of the programs that we currently have, and that's just very few. We have a lot of challenges, but that also means we have a lot of opportunities. There are only 75 people, and we have to do almost everything. But that is saying we still maintain a good work-life balance, like all other federal agencies. We do provide the benefits and insurance, day off, and BTS also allow our employee to telework, and some of us also remote work, which means that you 100% telework at home. So again, that we are a very small agency, that means that we are a very large family. I know everyone in BTS by the first name. I have seen everyone. I say hi to everyone. During the pandemic, I know there are some new people coming on board that I really haven't met them in person. But during our 30th anniversary, I was really happy to see all those people that I haven't seen for the past 2-3 years. So the skills that we're looking for, I put them into 4 different categories so that you can get a little bit sense of the diversity of the skills that we're looking for. The technical part that we especially would love to have someone who is able to process large data sets. We have a lot of data that require some skillful statisticians to help us to do the error checking, visualization, build up the database. And also I have mentioned that we produce maps. So GIS skill is definitely desirable. On the statistical side, we do the traditional data collection. So sampling, estimation, imputation skills are definitely wonderful to have. If you are familiar with the total survey error, that's definitely a plus. We also have offices that focusing on the analysis, and those offices will need a skill that will need the skills of statistical modeling, forecasting, econometry, machine learning, anything that I can think about that in the statistical side. On the research side, we are trying to be creative because we are a very small agency. We don't really have a lot of resources. We have to do something that's very innovative sometimes. And so we're trying to move away from the traditional data collection, but at the same time, traditional data collection really is still very essential. So how do we improve the traditional data collection? What other methods can we use to collect the information? Can we use the unstructured data like the location-based data that I mentioned? How do we evaluate how good the data quality that is? That's a very open question for us. And again, we need to protect the confidentiality of the data that's provided by the respondents. What kind of disclosure avoidance methodology can we use? Those are all the open research topics that we have currently. And the last bucket, the soft skills, definitely. We are looking for someone who is a great team player, good at time management, good at problem solving, and energetic, and love to be within part of the large family. Currently, BTS is hiring. I'm listing some of the positions right here. We are hiring several statisticians, and we are also looking for economists and transportation specialists. And you can find more information on our website. If you go to www.bts.gov/jobs, you will find a whole array of the positions that we're currently looking for. And if you have any questions, or if you would like to send your resume to us, please send it to btsjobs@dot.gov. If you're looking into a fellowship or internship, I'm also listing 2 opportunities here. We constantly have posting on ORISE, which is the Oak Ridge Institute for Science and Education. If you are a newly graduate or you are looking for a fellowship while you are still studying, those are 2 great opportunities for you. With that, I would be happy to take any questions. And again, if you have any specific questions about anything that I talk about, please feel free to reach out to me. And here is my email address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fun. That's amazing. I love the BTS reference in the beginning, and truly the data BTS is different than singing BTS. We all like the different BTSs. So we do have some questions in the chat. I think maybe we can, there's 2 questions. I think maybe we can address one of them that might be relevant for everyone, and one is very specific. So Sohaib said, can you go back to the slide about the fellowship and internship, please? I think that might be helpful for everyone just to see again.
Yeah, no problem. I will share the screen one more time.
And then for your questions, Sumit, we will answer directly in the chat because I think it's more person specific.
Please just bear with me. I am trying to find a way to share that screen one more time.
Should be the green button that says share screen.
Yes.
Yeah, technology, it's hard to navigate sometimes.
I know technology is too difficult. Oh, yes, I find it.
Okay. So let's give it a quick
Here.
second.
I believe this is a screen that you're looking for. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, can you guys see this?
And I will be happy to share you the slides as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, all the slides will be shared at the end. Please just answer the email survey and they will be shared with you. Okay. So there's 2 specific questions, but during the, because of time, maybe we should move on to the next section. And then would you mind, Dr. Fan, just answer them directly in the chat?
Sure.
Is that okay?
I will do that.
Thank you so much. Okay. So in the meantime, let's move it up to our next set of speakers. We got a lot for you guys. It's amazing. Okay, I don't know if we can see this. Can we see it? Oh, okay. Awesome. So we already started sharing. Let me quickly introduce Mr. Steven and Mrs. Ashley. So next up, we have 2 amazing speakers from U.S. Energy Information Administration, and they're Stephen Nelly and Mrs. Ashley Remick. Mr. Stephen Nelly is the EIA, Energy Information Administration, Deputy Administrator at EIA. With more than 35 years of public and private sector experience as an energy professional, he brings a wealth of expertise in petroleum and natural gas markets and data operations to EIA's leadership team. And we also have Mrs. Ashley, who is going to be on the same So the same set of presentation, they're doing a joint presentation today. And she is the EIA Director Office of Resource Management. And they will be bringing us more about U.S. Energy Information Administration. Thank you so much.
All right, well, Ashley's going to control our slides. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Danny, for the introductions. Really nice to be with all of you today. As Danny said, I'm Steve Nally, EIA's Deputy Administrator, and also with me is Ashley Remick. She oversees our hiring, which includes recruitment, retention, career development, and much, much more. She oversees our budget, process and procurement, and project management offices. So she's integral to our operations. Thank you for inviting us to talk today about your career, about career opportunities at EIA. What I want to do is give you a quick overview of EIA, our mission, and the types of folks we hire. And then Ashley's going to give you a little more information about how to find about opportunities here at EIA. And then, of course, we'll be available, be on hand available to answer any questions throughout this session. And then at the end, next we've got the slide up. So EIA is one of the 13 federal statistical agencies, and of course our focus is on energy. And it's really an exciting time to work in the energy space with so much going on right now with the energy transitions, the Russian-Ukraine situation, supply issues coming out of the pandemic, and so much more. And I don't think sometimes people realize how much energy touches the day-to-day aspects of their lives. We are certainly part of the Department of Energy, but our mission is rather unique in that our data and analysis are independent and impartial. We are policy neutral, and any of the work we do is policy neutral. And we simply try to provide facts and insight so the policymakers and market participants can make informed decisions. And by law, none of our data or analysis are subject to review by the administration or Congress. And so that's really what we mean by our work is independent and policy neutral. Next slide, please. EIA is a relatively small organization within the Department of Energy, but we have a rather broad reach and lots of folks rely on our data and analysis. As you can see here, we have a wide range of stakeholders ranging from the government, energy industry, business, finance industry, the consulting community, media, research, education community, and of course, private citizens. And as I said, we're a relatively small organization, but we like to say that we punch above our weight. And by that, I mean, we have a big impact for our relative size. Next slide, please. This is just quickly our organization chart. EIA employs about 365 federal employees and roughly the same number of contractors. We primarily hire economists, mathematical statisticians, survey statisticians, operations research analysts, and geologists. We are mostly a remote organization at this point, and that has allowed us to expand our hiring reach throughout the country, and we've brought an amazing and talented group of people since the pandemic. Most of our staff are located in the Washington, D.C. area, but up to the GS-14 level, we do allow people to be anywhere in the United States. Our management team is still located in the Washington, D.C. area and comes in to the office at least once a week. And just quickly to run through the organization chart, EIA's administrator is the Senate confirmed presidential appointee, and we are organized with three primary offices. Our statistic program, our analysis program, and then our Office of Resource and Technology Management. Office of Resource and Technology Management is responsible for the administrative services for our federal staff and our contractors, for agency-wide IT, strategic planning, budget, acquisition, program evaluation, project management, and a comprehensive stakeholder outreach and communications office. Of course, that's the office that Ashley works in. But what we want to do today is primarily talk about our other two offices, which is the Office of Energy Statistics and Energy Analysis. Next slide, please. So our Office of Energy Statistics, or our data program, we operate a comprehensive energy supply and demand collection program. And we run over 90 surveys that survey the entire segment of the energy sector, both from supply side to consumption and consumer side. And then we also, our Office of Energy Analysis runs our short-term and our long-term forecasts, as well as topical long-term and short-term analysis piece. So we do a short-term energy outlook, which is our STIO, which currently forecasts prices, volumes domestically through 2023. In January, it'll go out through 2024. And then our annual energy outlook is domestically focused and will go out in March of next year. And it looks at, again, it's domestic focus and goes up to 2050. And then our IEO International Outlook also goes out to 2050, but it's a much more international look, and that usually goes out in the fall. In these two offices is where we hire the economists, mathematical statisticians, survey statisticians, operations research analysts, and geologists. I know data sciences is also an area that many of you might be interested in. That's something we're really incorporating into our workforce, particularly in our Office of Energy Statistics. Data visualization is a skill that we're really trying to highlight as we redo our website and try to present information. We have tons of information on our website, but we really are trying to find ways to present that information in new and creative ways that we deliver to our stakeholders. And so data visualization is a skill set that we're really looking for in people, and it's an exciting area. And I know it's in a lot of folks coming out of school these days have those skill sets, and that's something we're really focused on right now. Our staff level, as BTS discussed, full range of up from the GS9 to the SES level. We have many of our staff have advanced degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, and the skill sets, I won't repeat them, are very much the same that BTS outlined. I really feel good about our career path here at EIA. About 2 years ago, we stepped back and really tried to make sure that we had a career path that offered both a direct line to management, leadership, and also a technical path. And we felt that a lot of our staff had the technical skills, and we forced them into management's development path. And we wanted to recognize that the career path on the technical side is very important. So we've created positions up to the GS level, GS 15 level, as well as SLs, which are sort of a technical scientific path for economists, statisticians, and operations research analysts. So we kind of have two paths here at EIA. I think it's a real improvement we've made for our staff. Overwhelmingly, people feel very good about it. So they can actually see there are growth opportunities in both management leadership as well as the technical side. Naturally, go into a little bit more of that in detail. The last point I want to make here before handing it over to Ashley is we have a wide range of things that we do. We short, long-term modeling. We do a lot of research and data analysis and writing, project management. And I'd encourage you all to ask questions today or reach out to us after these sessions so we can connect you with the right managers or leaders to let you know. They can tell you about the opportunities we have here so you can learn more. I think EIA is a great place to work. We just, for those of you who aren't familiar with FEVS, the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, we just got the results back. Our scores were overwhelmingly positive, some of the highest scores we ever had. So I think it's a really great time to look at EIA. It's a really great place to work. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley.
Thanks, Steve. Can you hear me? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Ashley Remick, and I'm the director for the Office of Resource Management within EIA, as Steve said. So my position also, as you mentioned, has responsibility for all the business support functions within EIA, includes budget and finance, security, acquisitions, and human resources, which is really why I was asked to join today. My role in human resources is working directly with the Department of Energy's HR office in hiring, recruiting, and other personnel items for EIA. So I was asked to speak a little bit about the types of positions that we are hiring for, a little bit about requirements for those positions, how we accept applications for our available jobs, and finally, I'll go over our career page and how that can be navigated. So first on this slide, we have listed the types of positions that we are typically hiring for. I know that Steve mentioned a couple of other ones. I was highlighting these specifically because these are the ones that we actually have direct hiring authority for, which I'll speak to in a few minutes. So we, again, have math statisticians, economists, and some general engineers as well we're hiring. We do hire these positions at all levels. As Steve mentioned, we have entry-level positions, mid-level, or supervisory. And really, this is based on the available vacancies that we have at any given time. So next, I want to explain a little bit, and I might be getting a little too HRE, but I was told or asked to go a little bit into this because there's a lot of questions about applying for government positions. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The definitions, I want to talk a little bit about the definitions that you may see when looking for a government job. All of the titles that I have listed there, the statisticians, economists, etc., are what OPM, which is the Office of Personnel Management, which is basically the regulatory agency over all things federal personnel. They call these series in the federal government. And these series are defined through a process called position classification, which I'm not going to get into as it's a somewhat cumbersome process, as I'm sure our federal colleagues know. I think what is really most helpful for you all is understanding what types of positions are out there and how you can look at whether you are meeting the requirements and qualifications required for those positions. So the first of these requirements that I have listed here is U.S. citizenship. I was curious because I was asked to kind of see if there were any other options or if there were any options for non-U.S. citizens. So I did look at some other agencies that were hiring for statisticians specifically, and I was unable to find any that didn't have this right now as a requirement. Some did list that they may have exclusions, but you would have to look into the requirements for those positions within the actual job announcement to see if a particular agency does have an exclusion. DOE and EIA do not have exclusions for U.S. citizenship. So that is the first requirement that is required. Secondly, for all these positions that I have listed on the slide, there are educational requirements that vary by series. These can include a degree in a certain field. For example, economists and general engineers require degrees in those fields, or a combination of education and experience. Statisticians and math statisticians require 4-year degrees, but the qualifications center more around having enough semester hours in math and/or statistics. So qualification requirements for different grade levels. Grade level is how pay is determined. They vary and are also listed in the job announcements posted on USA Jobs, which I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. So likely the big question you all have is, how do I apply for these jobs? So DOE and EIA utilize, this is a very long terminology, but I'll explain it, the OPM government-wide STEM direct hire authority. And I believe Shashi also referred to this in her vacancies that she had. And this covers all of the series that are listed above. Basically, that means that OPM has acknowledged the critical nature of these STEM positions and the difficulty in hire for them, and they developed a streamlined approach for hiring for these STEM positions. They are open to the public, and they allow EIA to accept resumes through USA Jobs for our vacant positions. The announcements are open continually as we are able to use it to fill several grade levels, and as I mentioned, by actual vacancies. So basically, when you apply to one of these positions, and this is government-wide, you're putting your resume in a repository that can be drawn upon when vacancies need to be filled. So if you are interested in a government job and feel you meet the basic requirements for these positions, the first step is to establish a USA Jobs account if you haven't done so yet. It's pretty user-friendly, and it allows for several versions of resumes to be saved. So once you find positions that you're interested in, you want to look at a couple of things within the announcement: conditions of employment and the qualifications. Those are two major pieces that you want to look at in the announcement. The qualifications section lists specifically what type of degree or education is required. Finally, you want to take a look at the section titled Specialized Experience and ensure your experience in education meets the requirements listed. So a couple of other hints for you: make sure you read through and understand exactly what documentation is required and upload all those documents. Transcripts would be a good example. This is kind of like the first level when people are looking at resumes. If they don't have all the documentation, you kind of don't even make it to the next step. When you're applying for announcements, you want to make sure you understand the date that that announcement stops. As I mentioned, these are open continuously, but they do eventually close and then they repost. So you would have to reapply to that position. So just as an example, DOE keeps applicant resumes also for 120 days right now, and then they drop out of the system. This basically keeps the candidate pool active with people that are still interested in being hired by DOE and EIA. So this requirement is going to be changing soon to 90 days. So if you do apply to one of these positions that we are going to give you the links to, you want to make sure that you're checking to make sure your resume is still valid. So for our careers page, I want to just show you this really quickly. This is a newly updated page that we just created. And we have some just basic information here on the front at the top of this. And then on the left-hand side, there's some things that might be of interest. We have our current openings. And we do have internships as well. We will be opening what is called a pathways position. There's 4 vacancies that we'll have. Those will be opening soon, and they will have these. We will have these listed on here. So if anybody's interested in work while you're in school, you could apply to this internship. We also have other information about working at EIA, why people chose to work here, application tips, etc. So the next page, or the next part of the page, is our current openings. And this is basically where we show the positions that are actually open currently within EIA, a little bit of a description, and then what types of series, as I mentioned before, and that's why I actually talked about that we are looking for to fill these positions. So if there's a position there that you find interesting, you'd want to make sure that you meet the requirements for the series that we're looking for. And then finally, and you can also see that we do have names here, like even though we would be hiring for a statistician or an economist, that position within our organization could be called a lead modeler. So we have the series and then we have the organizational titles. And so then last but not least, we have the how to apply section here. As Steve mentioned, we do have remote and non-remote positions, and you actually have to apply through different links for those types of positions. So we've tried to outline this as clearly as possible. 11 through 14, you would click on the links here to apply for these series. And then for our supervisory or positions that are required to be in DC, you would apply to these other links that we have listed here. And then one other note, these, as I mentioned, you want to watch the dates of when positions and when announcements close for the direct hire. The DOE ones will be closing on 12/31 and reposting on January 1st. So if you are interested in applying and it's after January 1st, you probably want to start your process with us through our careers page, because we will keep those links updated for the actual positions that are available. So that is pretty much what I had to share. I know that was a lot of HR information, so I'm definitely available to answer questions at the end if there's any other questions regarding all of this.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's really helpful to see the step-by-step process and things to watch out for, like the requirement, for example, for US citizenship. I think those are things that are really just helpful to see. There's one question from Sahib about internship and fellowship opportunities. I saw that there's internship opportunities. I wasn't sure if the pathway program is the fellowship opportunities, or would you mind elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So Pathways is an actual internship, student internship that OPM has. We do not currently have any fellowship openings. But we are, like I said, going to be hiring for the internship, which is typically for us summer. It's, individuals who are still in school, they can work during the summer and during the holidays if that's something that, works for them as well. So we are looking for 4 people in that area, and we'll be opening those pretty soon. And we will have the links on our careers page. So I'm sorry, I forgot to show my last page of the slides, but you'll be sending them out. I have all the links in there as well for the careers page, our EIA page, and all the USA jobs links.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, I'll be sure to send out all the links and information. So just be on the lookout for that internship opportunity that's coming up very soon. Thank you. I hope that answers your questions, Sahib. And Yes, so I have also followed up a question on the pathway program. Maybe I think we're doing pretty okay on time. Maybe we can answer one last question from
Sure.
Caroline. Caroline's asking about the pay range for GS 11 to 14. It's something that we all care about. So thanks for asking about that. If you feel comfortable answering that question.
Sure. So pay is actually determined by where the individual lives. The locality is what they call it. That's what OPM calls it. And then the grade that they are on. So if you want to Google, I don't have it right in front of me, but you can Google OPM GS scales, and it will show you all the different locations that they have. And it will, and basically, just as a side note, typically when people are coming into the federal government, they start on step 1 of the GS scale. So if you're looking at something, if someone lives in, San Francisco, they can look at the San Francisco scale and see what that would be, 11-1, that type of thing. The only other thing as well that you need to know is if your city is not listed in there, then you're in what is called the rest of US. So you would want to look at the rest of US salaries. So they are very basically by where you're living. So, and since we have a lot of remote employees, we do have to manage that quite a bit.
Yeah, sounds like it varies a lot. So thank you so much. I think that's just on the personal notes, on the personal question, I wasn't sure if I got this clearly. So right now there's 2 paths, right? One is for the research and one is for the management and leadership. Is the research path the one for GS 14 or GS 15? Or does that show the research path here on how to apply page?
So Steve was talking about are you talking about the technical versus the non-technical? Is that what you're talking
exactly.
about? Yes,
Yeah.
all of those have paths up to the 15 and even executive level. I believe executive. Okay. Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yes, we do have paths all the way, from entry level to executive level for both.
For both. Awesome.
I think to answer the question, they're not distinguished here between technical and managerial, but the links to the announcements do not distinguish that. That would be the hiring manager would, when they pull the resumes, would make sure that they know what they're looking for. So, but there's not a apply for a technical versus apply for a manager. But all of our managers are GS 15s and above. So they do by default fall into that bottom category that Ashley has here on the screen.
Okay. Thank you. That's very informative. Okay, I think that's all the questions that's in the chat right now. And yes, thank you so much. So should we leave the rest of the questions for the Q&A session, and maybe we can move on to our last but not least final speaker of the day. So allow me to quickly introduce Mr. Jonah Wong. So Mr. Jonah Wong, maybe I can share my screen here. Mr. Jonah Wong is a mathematician, mathematical statistician at the U.S. Census Bureau, as a member of the Census Bureau's Methodology and Standards Council. Jonah is an advocate for quality and transparency in the production of official statistics, and Jonah is also the recruitment and retention coordinator for methodology staff at the Census Bureau. So thank you so much, Mr. Wong, for spending time. Let me just get out of the sharing, so maybe we can have you share your screen.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Danny. And actually, thank you, speakers, for an interesting lesson about your agencies, as well as doing some heavy lifting that I don't have to discuss now about federal employment and general schedule and just the federal statistical system. So thank you very much. Let's see. Let me get to my, all right, here we go. Everybody can see that. So yes, I work for the U.S. Census Bureau. I was hired in 2008, so this is 14 years I've been with the Bureau. And before that, I was an educational researcher. The last 11 years, I have worked for the Methodology and Standards Council, and I've been the recruitment and retention coordinator for the methodology staff. So what that means is I'm technically a mathematical statistician, but I don't really do statistics for the Bureau. I actually just do the recruitment and retention programs. Let's see if I can, yes, okay, here we go. So the Census Bureau, if you don't know what we do, is we count stuff, specifically people for the United States. And that's been since the 1800s at least. And the business and economies for the last, I believe that was 50 years. And also the demographics of the people that consist of the US. So this is our current organization of the Bureau right here. So we have the 7 areas, and you can see that most of them are mainly dealing with statistics. Actually, we can actually add budget can be red highlighted because they do use statistics in there. Let's see. So we do have the 3 program areas: decennial census, demographic programs, and economic programs. And they do most of the production work of collecting the statistics for the United States. And the field operations are the folks that we send out to do that collection work and processing. And we also have a research and methodology area. And we do a variety of different statistical techniques that we employ. We do lots of research. All right, so we do have 3 job series that do much of the heavy lifting on the statistics. The largest collection of statisticians, professional statisticians in the world work for the Census Bureau. So the survey stat analysts, data scientists is the 1530 job series, and they're involved with the collection, the management, and the analysis and publishing of findings. Excuse me. Mathematical statisticians work more on the methodology series of the production, and they just try to solve methodological problems. And now that we have our new defined job series, the 1560 series, so they basically use data collection and analysis methods in order to inform the methodology. Okay. We also have other opportunities. Our student trainees are generally hired as 1599 series. And we generally hire summer interns, but we also have other fall and spring as well. There are other job series that we employ to do all the work of collection and just managing all the data that comes in. So we have geographers, social scientists, psychologists, economists, OR folks, program managers, and computer scientists. So how many people do we employ? So we generally have between 4,000 to 6,000 employees that are out of our headquarters in Suitland, Maryland. And we, depending on if we are running a census, we we jump up quite a bit of in numbers. I mean, we hire a small army in order to do the work of the census. And is right now, actually, we're out of the building because we're doing construction work ever since COVID. And it doesn't look like we might be back into the building at least until 2024. And we'll be sharing our building with a couple other statistical agencies. So we generally employ, 1,500 to 2,000 survey statisticians. Right now we're about 350 in mass stats, and 150 to 300 geographers and other job series. And we just hired 10 1560 data scientists. We have employed survey statistician data scientists, and I think we're around 20 of those, and I think we're going to reclassify them over to the new data scientist series. All right, and that's pretty much my presentation, but I do have notes from the previous presentation. So we generally hire our non-supervisory positions at from GS7 through 12. So GS7 is, I don't think anyone really defined this, but so, if you were to be hired as a person with, zero education in the federal system, in the general schedule, you would be hired at GS1, right? But we hire, because of these are technical positions for statisticians and above, we hire at the GS7 level. So that would be a bachelor's degree with a 3.0 GPA. GS9 is a master's with zero experience in work experience in the field. And you successfully increase your grade level to it's 11. I know it's weird, and then 12. So that's 1 year of working as a 9. You can qualify to be a GS 11, and 1 year of working as an 11, you qualify to be a GS 12. And those are our non-supervisory positions. We also have the 13, 14, 15, and SES, which SES is essentially the management levels. So we offer technical positions and supervisory positions, and you would have to reapply for those. And we generally have the career ladder. So if you get hired as a 7, you can progress without having to recompete for the job until you're a GS 12, either as a mathematical statistician or survey stat, or now the data scientist. Let's see, we pretty much follow the same, work-life balance that Chachi mentioned. And yeah, we are currently at 100% telework. And hopefully, we won't be back as soon as we can. Let's see, one other note. So when we post our positions, we generally post either delegated examination, merit promotion, or the direct hiring authority. So delegated examination, or DEU as most people refer it to, is just the regular competition with everyone else who applies at the time. The merit promotion is reserved for the federal employees who have put in their time at their grade levels in order to qualify for the next grade level up. So and that starts at GS 13 and above. And then the direct hire authority that's been mentioned before. So we can post those positions at GS 11 and higher. So currently we have an open posting for the mathematical statistician positions, and we have a 7-9, which is delegated examination, and we have an 11-12 which is direct hire authority. And the difference between direct hire authority and delegated examination is all you have to do is just provide your minimum qualifications for that position to be considered. So our current open posting on USA Jobs is right now it's usually 6 months long that is open, and we have certain cutoff dates, usually about 60 days long between, and we evaluate the current pool of applicants that have applied before that cutoff date. And I think that's all I have for today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wong. Yes, thank you for the explanation at the end, because we do have a couple questions in the chat regarding more specifics on these positions. Specifically, there's some questions regarding opportunities. So I think that we mentioned that one of the requirements for opportunity is a requirement for citizenship. So are there any opportunities for non-citizens at US Census Bureau? I guess also applies to other agencies, but do we have any opportunity for people who are maybe on the F1 visa or a permanent residence?
As far as I know, there are 3 ways to enter into working for the federal government as a non-US citizen. So one is, of course, it's been mentioned, the exception. So some agencies have a provision that they may employ non-US citizens in their federal workforce, depending, it's usually like a matter of life or death. So, research scientists for NIH is one example. The second one is contractors. We do employ contractors, and of course they've been vetted, but they do employ non-US citizens. And then the third way is we do Census in particular has a fellowship for senior fellows, and that's the only opportunity that I know of that you could actually work at the Census Bureau, and it's I think it's co-hosted with NSF, National Science Foundation, and you have to be working in the field postdoctorate at least 5 years in order to be qualified to apply for that.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like the jobs through the USA Jobs are not the ones that could take the non-citizenships, but there are other routes that we can offer up.
And there's another question about the internship opportunities. My last slide, I'd had directions to you could check the US Census homepage, and on the bottom, just click on the jobs, and everything's listed there. And then the second way is you could actually go to USA Jobs and just do a search for because our internships are posted only at certain times in order to get just the pool of applicants that are interested in certain time periods or time frames. So if you're interested in summer employment, we would generally post late January, early February.
Sounds good. Would any of the panelists like to also add to any other opportunities for people who are non-US citizens, or any opportunities for internships for people that are currently in school?
So I had mentioned the pathways. I think that's what Jonah's talking about as well. We would be doing ours as a $15.99, also a student trainee. So that's the one that we'll be posting, hopefully, if not before the end of the year, right after the beginning of the new year. And we also only post for a period of time to gather interest at that time. It's not an open and continuous one like the direct hire that I was talking about. It will only be open for a certain period of time, probably 2 weeks.
I just want to add to what Jonah mentioned on the non-citizenship opportunities. So very similar to Census Bureau, that if you would like to work with us and you are not a US citizen, you need to be a senior accomplished scientist, and we could bring you in as a contractor through the fellowship. We do have a couple pretty decent scientists working with us through ORISE fellowship. And they do not have citizenship, and we do sponsor the visa that way.
So for people who might be in school still looking for internships and stuff like that, that'll be tougher for them to obtain that opportunity.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a drawback.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we want to be safe. So guys, I think there's one last specific questions towards, I think, Census Bureau, and then maybe we can open the floor up for any of the Q&As that we have for everyone who is interested. So for US Census Bureau, I think there's just specific questions asking about the numbers, like 1599 series. I think Ashley also mentioned 1599, 1530 series. How do they overlap with the GS 11? Like, are the GS 11, GS 12 also within the 1599? Or how do these two overlap or differentiate?
Well, I can, so the 1599 is what we use for the student trainee. So that basically encompasses the 1500, the full series. In the Pathways, one of the nice things about the Pathways program is that, and I believe Jonah had this on his slide, after they have finished school, they can be converted to a permanent position. That is when they would be moved into the full GS position of either a 1529 or a 1530. So while they're in the student trainee program, they would be the 1599. If they are converted into a permanent position, they would then go into their actual series within the 1500 range. Jonah, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's correct. The Census Bureau will convert very well performing interns to permanent employment. The other thing I would add, though, is so the GS level that Danny mentioned, when student trainees are hired, they're evaluated based on their current education. So a typical junior would come in as a GS 3 or 4, I believe. And, it goes all the way up, like I said, with the bachelor's degree at GS 7.
Okay.
I think one thing
Awesome.
to mention with the Pathways program is I don't think a lot of student interns understand that puts them in a sort of a situation where they don't have to compete for federal jobs in the future if they're converted. I mean, it's a real benefit that I think a lot of interns don't fully understand. I mean, it gives you direct pathway into federal service.
And it would be open up very soon, right, on the website. I think, like, I remember that they should be keeping a lookout for it. Yeah, definitely. That really saves a lot of trouble. So thank you guys so much. Thank you so much to all the panelists again for just taking time today and giving us such exhaustive and detailed oriented presentations, both to the work at the agencies, what kind of skills require, and very specific things on how to apply. So right now, maybe we can open the floor up for any general Q&A session, Q&A questions. If you have any questions for any of the agencies, please feel free to type it in the Q&A. If you have any questions regarding just in general government agencies, you can also type that in the Q&A chat. I'll run through the list, and if we have some time filling up the questions, I personally also have some I'm just very, very curious about what you guys do. So first of all, Caroline is asking, is statisticians allowed to work completely remotely? I guess, yeah, whoever has experience and wants to speak on that a little bit more on are you allowed to work remotely completely?
So for EIA, grades 11 through 14, unless there is a specific requirement for a clearance or something, those are very few and far between in our organization. But yes, we do have that option within our organization. But as Steve mentioned, once you get into the management type positions, the GS 15 and above, there is a requirement to be in DC.
For BTS, we do have the remote opportunity. So there are two different ways. We have the remote job that you can apply through the USA Job. And the other way is if you are one of us already, then we can also apply for the remote work as well. And currently 20% of BTS is remote work.
For census, like I mentioned, you see the brand spanking new building behind me that opened in 2007, the Census Bureau headquarters. It's being converted to a hotel system right now, as far as I know, and we've been working remotely since COVID.
Just real quick for EIA, I mean, that's a permanent situation. We're not in a temporary, though it's a permanent work change we've made. We're making changes in the building to accommodate the space. And I would say at this point, at the GS 14 level and below, Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, 90% of our staff are remote. And most of our managers are complaining. They want to be remote too.
Yeah, I think as the role of what we do with statisticians is so cool to be remote. Just a follow-up question on that. What do you personally enjoy the most about remote work? Maybe what are some things you miss about the office too?
I'll go first. I was not a big fan of remote before the pandemic. I think it proved that people were incredibly productive. I mean, you cannot deny that. And I think it just requires a different way of envisioning the office. I think a lot of young people coming out of college, they're coming from a hybrid situation. They're viewing the workplace very different than those of us that were in the workplace before the pandemic. I think we're making the adjustment. They're coming into the workplace, so they're looking for a lot of flexibility. Our position was, we didn't know what the right situation was, but the best we could do was give our employees the decision, put the decision in their hands, let them win. And overwhelmingly, they decided they wanted to be remote. I think people really appreciated it. Very, very productive. People are very productive. I think we even had a number of people who wanted to come back into the office initially. They made that decision. And after being back in about 6 weeks, they decided they wanted to go remote as well. So I think people missed the connection in the office. Once they kind of reconnected a little bit, then they decided they wanted to go remote. I don't know. I think even some of the downsides that we found initially, I think we found ways to overcome it. I would just say that, you just have to kind of adjust that's the new way you're working, and you have to move your organization to make those adjustments, to incorporate it into the way you do things. So for example, we just went through a whole round of things. What do you do for a holiday party? I mean, that's a hard one. So we're rethinking, what do you do in that situation? So there are some things, but that, being 100% in the office has some challenges. Being 100% remote has some challenges. You just have to find ways to work through
that. So personally, I'm a big fan of remote work. In my entire office, actually, most of my staff are currently remote work. And I find that there are a couple big things. One is time management, flexibility, and productivity too. All the great employees that we have, they produce even more during the remote work. And I think that is really amazing. And remote work also allows a lot more flexibility as well. I would say half of my office has young children at home, and they really appreciate to have that flexibility that they might have to step away for half an hour, that's fine, just let me know. But after they come back, they can totally focus on their work. They don't really have to worry about, oh, right now somebody called me that I really have to go pick up my kid. So I find remote work works especially well for people with young children, especially young family. And at BTS, I think we all appreciate that. Like what Stephen said, the bigger drawback of the remote work is the in-person connection. We used to have a lot more in-person connection, and the first day I went back to the building, I was a little shocked. I forgot which floor my office was. It took me 10 minutes to just go up and down the entire floor to look for where's my office. I just couldn't find it. And during that time, it was the very first time I saw the new hire in my office too. And it was a very strange feeling because we've never seen each other. We didn't know how tall we are. It was awkward. But after a while, I think we are getting back that kind of feeling of seeing each other in person. But again, it's a challenge in this hybrid environment. How do we reconnect? How do we keep connection with each other? How do we encourage each other? That's actually a pretty big challenge in our current hybrid work environment.
So again, I'd like to thank the other panelists for doing a lot of the heavy lifting, so I don't have to work as hard here. But yes, I would echo a lot of what they said so far, and I just want to add that yes, we have given up some of the connection in order for our convenience, but we could always find new ways to connect, and this is it's a new world, really. And it is helpful that we could do lots more work, yes, and somehow it is more efficient. But yeah, I mean, I have talked with some of the folks who are used to being in the building, and especially at Census with at least half of the staff are some experts in the field, in all these different diverse fields. You could trip over somebody and come up with a new idea just talking with someone in the hallway. And that, we kind of miss that. And it's been said a lot. But yeah, we'll just muddle through, I guess.
Yeah, and I would say for us DC folks, not having to deal with the commute on a daily is a lovely thing. Really do enjoy that. I feel like I am much more productive because I'm spending 3 hours in my car on the day that I am coming in, that I could be working. But, I also enjoy being in the office too. I will say that, like, just to piggyback on what Jonah said, I ran into somebody yesterday and we started talking about, oh, how can we leverage LinkedIn to start, talking about, our careers and those types of things. So I don't know if I would have reached out to that individual just to talk about that. It was just something that we organically started talking about. So yes, it is kind of hard to kind of manage both of those. And I would say it's almost more difficult to be in a hybrid versus all virtual, because like Steve said, that was our biggest challenge. Like when everybody's virtual, then you just do a virtual holiday party. But when some people are in the office, how do you include other people? So that's been a challenge that we have. But like Jonah said, we can find new ways to connect with people. So we'll continue to work on that.
Yeah, it's so cool to see how adaptive we all are in terms of what happened 2 years ago versus where the new normal is, and how we continue to adapt and move forward with the next couple of years. Maybe when we approach the pathway program and going to the government, it'll be different. So who knows? So speaking of the pathway program, so here's some more technical questions now. One question, I think it's from the same person. So Haib, apologize if I pronounced your name wrong, but thank you so much for continued questions. They asked what the application process is like for the pathway program. I'm guessing if they're hinting at, is it similar to the internship program or there's something different. And also, they also ask, what are opportunities for master's students?
So the application process for the student trainees or pathways, it is on USA Jobs as well. I also saw a question there that asked if they could get notifications. You can sign up for notifications through USA Jobs for particular positions. So you could narrow it down to the $15.99 and you would get notifications there. We aren't able to do notifications individually from EIA, but through the system you can. In terms of master's students, they can also apply for the Pathways program as well. They are eligible to apply for those.
So
Jonah, I don't know if you have.
I have it. Yeah. So yeah, it's exactly what Ashley said, and you can set up alerts on USA Jobs in order to, they'll send you a message when there's new postings that you would like to consider. You can narrow it down to a specific job series or job series, as well as certain agencies you might be interested in working for. And then, the application process is exactly the same as any federal application. You provide documentation and answer all the questions, and, that's how you'll be considered. Master students. So I know for Census Bureau, we have in our posting. So carefully always look at the postings and read the complete posting in all the language, because in ours, for the mathematical statisticians, we have a little phrase in there saying that we will accept application up to 9 months in advance of completing your degree. So, if you wanted to be hired once you were graduated in May, you could actually apply, in October or November and be qualified for that position at the full, the full position at, 1529 or 1530 or whichever.
Thank you so much. So, yes, okay. I think there's something that I would love to do for participants today, because for those that stayed almost to the last minute, I just want to give you a small treat by asking, I think this question might be helpful. So, for those of us who are actually here, we get direct access to the people who are overlooking the entire process and knowing exactly the insight. So may I ask, kind of, when you look at all the pool of applicants, what are some things that separates the excellence apart from just everyone else, so that, for the rest of people who are staying at the end, we can really know which traits or which things that are looked for in terms of going to pathways or internships or any of the positions right now at the agencies?
Okay, I'll go first. I think the resume is really important. I think a tight, focused resume, I think that really kind of has a clear objective what somebody wants to. I'm not a big fan of just long resumes that just list everything. I think something is very tightly focused, clearly what the objective is, and the experience kind of maps to what somebody's goals are and maps to the job. I think people who just have a really long resume and just throw the resume, I mean, a resume is a resume, I get it, but I think it needs to be tightly focused. I think we see too many people that just kind of repackage their stuff and the questions and have answers, and they just kind of cut and paste those things. I think those just look too generic sometimes. So I would try to answer the questions. Longer isn't always better. I think, crisp answers that I get directly to the question, direct experience. hiring managers see resumes, lots of applicants, because of the direct hiring authority, they're looking at hundreds of packages. So you want something that's pretty crisp and stands out, distinguishes the person. I think just more isn't always better.
And I agree with everything that Steve just said. And I would also say that some folks may have a little bit of an advantage of taking a look at our careers page to see like what we're actually hiring for and kind of gearing their resume towards the experience or education that they have in those areas if they have an interest. Since we've started this new version, we've really gotten in tune with our hiring managers and what they're really looking for. They do all the reviews, though. We don't do any of the reviews. We do the logistics of working with HR, and we get the resumes. We package them in a nice little spreadsheet and say, here's everybody that you got, and here's all the resumes. And, we send those off and let them take a look. But now that we have a better idea of what people are looking for, we're posting that on the careers page. And so you're able to kind of tailor your resume a little bit more. Even in an entry level position, if you did an internship or, if you focused on something in school in some of these areas, you could certainly do that. And federal resumes are famous for being like 16 pages long. And so I agree with Steve, that is totally not necessary. I think you need a little bit more than just a couple of bullets. I think you've got to expand a little bit more, especially for entry level, because we want to see kind of, what you've done, what school was about for you, that type of thing. But I think that's some of the main things that they would be looking for. And certainly, I think it is harder, as Steve said, with these direct hire announcements. They're very generic. There's nothing in there that says what we need. So by looking at, somewhere where it actually is saying what we're looking for, what types of positions we're looking to fill, that gives an opportunity for someone to tailor their resume.
I guess maybe a different way to say that is, imagine you're the hiring manager and somebody dumped 300 packages on your desk. I mean, and it's electronic. It's a hard product. You have to narrow the pool, and sometimes, it just comes to length and how much time you need to spend on a package. You go, I've got to make some decisions about how to narrow the pool. So I think something that's more tightly focused, clear, jumps out at somebody, it just grabs your attention. I think the more you can be concise and clear, you're going to get somebody's attention. You're going to get into the smaller in that final package. Ones that just go on and on and on, you just, for me, it doesn't grab my attention.
Yeah, and I think that there's a thought that there's like a word search that people are doing before they even send resumes. That is not accurate. So nothing's getting narrowed down, especially for direct hire. Well, at least for us, we don't have anything like that at DOE. And especially with direct hire, we certainly don't have anything like that. We don't have any data mining capabilities or anything to be looking for specific words. We're working on that, but we don't currently have it yet. So, so we're really starting from scratch. These hiring managers are literally starting from scratch. There is nothing. And the other thing about direct hire authority is that the individual that applies is self-certifying that they're qualified. So, the staffing specialist who typically under normal circumstances, traditional hiring would be going through and seeing whether the people qualify. They're not doing that. So they're literally just getting a bunch of cold resumes that have not been reviewed. There's no word reviews, anything like that. So you want to make sure that what you've got, especially at the top, I would think would be like, what's going to like Steve said, what's going to catch my attention immediately to say, okay, this is somebody that I want to read on from.
I will mention that there are two different types of resumes. One is more in the USA job that you put in all the information and it's all formatted. And the other type is you can actually tailor it and upload your beautiful formatted resume into the system. So I would encourage you definitely do the second one as well. And that helped a lot. So just give you a sense of the type of information that I receive every time I pull the resume out of the system. I get a giant big whole list of people and they all link all together in one file. And I have like thousands of resumes. So what I did is I just quickly flip through. And if there are information that catch my eye, then I will stop. So I want to go back to Stephen's point that you want to be focused. You really want to highlight your skill set. You want to highlight your accomplishments. You don't want to be on and on, because really the hiring managers do not have time to read through every word that you put there. But if you put the key, I wouldn't want to say keywords, but if you highlight some of the important statistical skills, your accomplishments that you have done, that can definitely catch the manager's eyes. And the other thing I want to mention is some jobs have questions on their job application announcements, and they might ask you, have you ever done do you have knowledge in Monte Carlo simulation? Do you have knowledge in spatial analysis? Do you have knowledge in t-test? And I suggest be honest, because when I see someone click everything, I skip the person pretty much, because I know you are not being honest. Then why should I waste my time? It's really not a shame or anything. You don't really want to show it. Not everybody knows everything. So I just want to put that out. The reason those questions are out there is we just want to make sure that you have the skill set. If you have the potential to grow. But if you click everything, then I pretty much know that you are not my target.
Again, I like to echo a lot of what my colleagues have said before, as well as so on the resume, try to show that you're interested in the field, that maybe you participated in a data science hackathon, and not just my mission, my career objective is data scientist, and a little bit beyond that. Okay. And hopefully, you have been involved in, the career you want to be interested in, right? So hopefully, put those things in the resume, as well as, so managers have a lot of different criteria, and they're looking for, they have so many different requirements. I mean, there's a lot of basic, have your math skills, have your statistics skills, have your programming skills, but specialized knowledge is, very valuable. If you have it, just put it on there, and, it can make a difference between one manager and the next. This morning, I sent an announcement to that we do at the Census Bureau about our, opportunities that, anyone at that level, they can transfer to a different job at the same level. And these are the 7 through 12 positions, and there's over 20 positions there that have all sorts of different skill sets, and that was only in the decennial area. So, be varied as much as you can, I think, is a good policy.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so helpful that like we got to be true, be concise, but also just be purposeful instead of just elaborate on too much. Sometimes talking too much or just without a purpose, it might have a drawback. But just be genuine and just do your best. If our skill set doesn't fit, maybe that's not the best fit after all. So just be genuine and trying to fit the best way possible. So thank you all so much. I think we reserve time to 1:30 EST. So we actually are a little bit over time. We do have one last question in the chat, but I think we can just like maybe type that question out. I don't want to hold everyone back from your lunch break or from what you got to do for the rest of the day. But I just want to say thank you again so much, panelists, for your time today, and for all the participants for joining in, and just be open to these opportunities. These are really, really amazing. If you want more information, of course, for participants, feel free to go to NIST.org, and all the links, slides will be provided. As long as you answer the survey for the email, please let us know what's the most helpful and how do you value this experience. But other than that, yes, thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Hope you all have a good, amazing rest of your day. For some of us who are out of break, happy holidays. Thank you all so much.